For 1,000 years, one city stood between two worlds. Constantinople, the crown of empires, the heart of faith, guarded by walls so mighty that even time itself seemed to fear them. Kings tried, crusaders burned, the Mongols thundered to its gates. None returned victorious.
But one man refused to believe that.
A 21-year-old sultan, young, brilliant, obsessed.
Of 1453, a boy barely 21 dared to challenge 1,000 years of legend.
He did the unthinkable.
Mehmed, the young sultan of the Ottomans. To others, he was just another conqueror. To history, he would become the conqueror.
This is Constantinople, the goal of our fathers and your destiny.
Where the world saw the impossible, Mehmed saw the unseen, a path over Earth itself. He would drag his navy across mountains and mud, turning land into sea and destiny into fire. And when dawn rose over the Bosporus, the ancient walls of Constantinople would tremble, and the world would never be the same again.
The secret weapon that destroyed the Byzantine Empire was rolling into place.
For more than 1,000 years, Constantinople stood as a monument to endurance. A city that had watched empires rise and crumble, yet never bowed. Its immense walls, layer upon layer of stone, brick, and faith, had resisted every army that dared approach. The Romans, the Arabs, the Bulgars, even the Crusaders, all had tried, and most had failed to claim it completely. By the middle of the 15th century, the city was little more than a pale reflection of its golden age, but the legend of its invincibility remained.
Fortress on earth and said, "There is no wall that cannot fall."
This defiance will cost us everything, Your Majesty.
We must be strong. The city will not fall to the faint of heart.
In the east, a new power had awakened. The Ottoman Empire had risen from the ashes of Seljuk domains and now stretched across Anatolia and deep into the Balkans. At its heart was a young ruler, one who dreamed not merely of conquest but of destiny. His name was Mehmed II. Barely 21, yet already hardened by betrayal, exile, and battle. The son of Sultan Mehmed II, Mehmed had ascended to the throne twice before he truly ruled. The first time, as a child of 12, he had been humiliated, forced to relinquish the sultanate when his armies faltered. The second time, he returned a man determined to erase that stain forever. He would not be remembered as a boy who failed. He would be remembered as the conqueror of Constantinople. Across the Bosporus, the Byzantine Empire was but a shadow. Its emperor, Constantine XI Palaiologos, ruled little more than the city itself and a few scattered territories. Yet he carried the title of Roman Emperor, the last of a line stretching back to Augustus. Constantinople was the crossroads of continents, the key to the Black Sea, and the beating heart of Christian Byzantium. To Mehmed, it was the one jewel his empire lacked, the symbol that would make the Ottomans heirs to Rome itself. But capturing it was thought impossible. For 1,000 years, the city's triple walls had defied the world. To assault them was to challenge history itself. Still, Mehmed believed history could be rewritten by those who dared. He began to prepare in silence. The vision of the conqueror. In Edirne, his capital, Mehmed summoned engineers, scholars, and craftsmen from every corner of his realm. The empire hummed with secret activity. Iron was forged day and night. Ships were repaired, and cannon molds glowed red in the foundries. The young sultan's vision was not of a siege in the old style. It was of a new kind of war, a battle fought with the inventions of the future. At the center of his design was a weapon the world had never seen. A gun so vast, so powerful, that it could bring down the very stones of Theodosius's walls. It would be called the Basilica Cannon. The man who built it was a Hungarian engineer named Orban. He had once offered his services to the Byzantines, but their treasury was empty. They could not afford his genius. So he came to Mehmed instead. The young sultan listened, understood, and paid him handsomely. Soon, under Orban's direction, the Ottoman foundries thundered. Bronze was poured into monstrous molds, and a weapon of 27 feet in length was born. It could hurl a stone ball weighing more than half a ton over a mile. It was slow, cumbersome, and terrifying. But Mehmed knew even the greatest cannon would not be enough. Constantinople was protected on all sides, by land, by sea, and by faith. To reach it, he would need not only power but ingenuity. He ordered the construction of a fortress on the Bosporus, Rumeli Hizari.
Untie the mainsail. Cast off the lines. We will ride the tide out.
Whose towers still stand today. Positioned opposite the older Anadolu Hizari, it choked the narrow strait completely. No ship could pass between the Black Sea and the city without the Sultan's permission. Trade was strangled. Supplies to Constantinople slowed to a trickle. The noose had begun to tighten. In the spring of 1453, the Ottoman host assembled, an army of nearly 100,000 men. Janissaries, Azaps, Sipahis, artillery crews, and engineers gathered under Mehmed's banners. Their camp stretched for miles across the Thracian plain. In front of them loomed the walls of Constantinople, separated from the Ottoman lines by moats, earthworks, and centuries of pride. The siege began. The great cannon thundered. Each shot was an earthquake. The balls smashed into the walls, tearing stone from mortar, shattering towers that had stood since antiquity. But the Byzantines repaired by night what the Ottomans destroyed by day. The defenders fought with courage and desperation, using the city's remaining resources to patch every breach. Inside, the citizens prayed. Outside, the empire hammered on. For weeks, the pattern repeated. Roar, collapse, repair. The city would not yield. Then came the problem that would define the siege: the Golden Horn. The impassable barrier. To the north of Constantinople lay a deep, natural harbor called the Golden Horn. It curved like a scythe around the city's northern walls, protected not only by geography but by a massive chain stretched across its mouth. This chain, anchored between the city and the Genoese-held suburb of Galata, blocked any Ottoman ship from entering the harbor. As long as it held, the Byzantines could supply the city by sea, and the Ottoman fleet could not attack the weaker northern walls. Mehmed's navy tried and failed to break through. Every attempt to force the chain was met with Greek fire and arrows raining from the towers. The Byzantine fleet, though small, fought like lions. As long as they held the horn, they could breathe. But Mehmed refused to accept limits. If he could not go through the chain, he would go around it. The idea seemed madness. The terrain north of the city was a tangle of hills and forests. Between the Bosporus and the Golden Horn lay several miles of rugged ground. No one in history had ever moved a fleet across it. To attempt it would be to court disaster. Yet the Sultan saw possibility where others saw impossibility. He summoned his engineers and ordered preparations for a plan that would shock the world. First, a path was cleared through the hills. Trees were cut, stumps removed, and the soil leveled. Then, hundreds of wooden planks were laid down to form a kind of primitive track. Over these, the Ottomans spread grease made from animal fat, creating a slick surface that would let heavy ships slide over land as if on ice. Beasts of burden were yoked, ropes were tied, and thousands of men stood ready to pull. Under the cover of night, Mehmed's navy began its impossible journey, the night of the moving ships. It was the night of April 21st, 1453. As Constantinople slept, strange noises echoed from the hills across the Horn. By torchlight, hundreds of Ottoman soldiers and labourers strained against ropes. One by one, ships began to move, not through the water, but across the earth. Witnesses would later write of the sight as something supernatural. The crescent banners glowed red in the firelight. The creak of wood and the grunt of men mixed with the cry of beasts. Slowly, impossibly, the fleet crawled over the ridge. Grease and timber, muscle and will, these became Mehmed's secret weapon. By dawn, the impossible had happened. More than 70 Ottoman ships had crossed the hills and slid down into the calm waters of the Golden Horn, behind the Byzantine chain. When the citizens awoke, they could scarcely believe their eyes. The harbour that had been their lifeline now bristled with enemy sails. Panic spread through the city. The defenders scrambled to reposition their forces. The northern walls, thought safe for generations, were suddenly under threat. Constantine XI tried to burn the ships, sending out fire rafts and small boats, but the Ottoman guns on shore protected them. The Sultan had turned geography itself into a weapon. Mehmed's moving ships had not only stunned his enemies, they had shattered their morale. The Byzantines now faced attacks from both land and sea. Every tower trembled under bombardment, every gate under assault. The Sultan's plan had worked. The chain that guarded the Horn was now useless. The siege had entered its final act. The siege tightens. The arrival of Mehmed's ships inside the Golden Horn changed everything. From that morning onward, Constantinople was truly surrounded. The defenders could no longer count on resupply or escape by sea. The harbour that had once shimmered with friendly sails was now an Ottoman lake, and from every direction came the low, rhythmic thunder of the Sultan's artillery. Inside the city, Emperor Constantine XI moved among his people. He visited the ramparts, spoke with his soldiers, and prayed in Hagia Sophia. There was dignity in his calm, but the truth was clear. Byzantium had no allies strong enough or willing enough to save her. The Genoese colony at Galata remained neutral. Venetian reinforcements promised from the west never arrived. Each sunrise brought new breaches, new funerals, and the smell of dust and smoke. For 40 days, the Ottomans kept up their relentless bombardment. Stone balls the size of men crashed into the walls. Gunpowder smoke hung over the plains like a storm cloud. The basilica cannon burst at least once under its own fury, yet its terror alone was enough to sap morale. Every night, teams of Byzantines tried to rebuild the shattered sections, but exhaustion gnawed at them. They were fighting against both the enemy and time.
The northern fortress has fallen, Your Grace. All is lost.
How could they have breached the walls so quickly?
In the Ottoman camp, Mehmed did not rest. He rode the lines daily, inspecting trenches, encouraging his men, and ordering the building of new siege towers, scaling ladders, and tunnels. He offered gold to those who fought bravely, and death to those who wavered. He was not merely leading an army, he was driving history forward. Still, the city held. The defenders, though few, fought with the courage of despair. The Varangian Guard, descendants of northern mercenaries sworn to the emperor, stood shoulder to shoulder with monks and merchants on the crumbling battlements. They believed the Virgin Mary herself protected the city. But faith could not halt gunpowder forever. The final assault. Before dawn on May 29th, 1453, the camp fell silent. Then came the sound that would echo for centuries. A single cannon blast exhales sharply, followed by the call to prayer. It was the signal. 3 waves of assault surged toward the walls. The first wave, irregular troops and volunteers hurled themselves forward, dying by the hundreds to wear down the defenders. II, composed of seasoned soldiers, pressed through the smoke and debris. Arrows, stones, and boiling oil rained down from the ramparts. But the third wave, the Janissaries, marched in perfect order, their drums pounding like a heartbeat of fate. At the gate of St. Romanus, a section weakened by weeks of bombardment, the Ottomans broke through. Amid chaos and shouting, the defenders rallied again and again until a small group of attackers managed to raise a crescent banner atop the wall. Seeing it, others followed. The line collapsed.
Your Majesty, the city has fallen! It's lost!
Fallen!
How is that possible?
Inside the
My God,
city,
how could this
the emperor
happen?
refused to flee. Casting off his imperial robes, he fought as a common soldier in the final melee. His body was never found. With his death, the 1,000-year-old Byzantine Empire ended. As Ottoman troops poured through the gates, bells tolled across the city for the last time. Hagia Sophia, that vast church of marble and mosaics, became a refuge for thousands. When Mehmed entered it later that day, he gazed up at the dome and ordered it preserved as a mosque. He knelt in prayer on the marble floor and gave thanks, not for destruction, but for destiny fulfilled. The aftermath. In a single morning, the balance of the world had changed. For the first time, Constantinople was no longer Byzantine, no longer Roman, it was Ottoman. Mehmed II would be remembered forever as Fatih, the Conqueror. Yet his triumph was not built on numbers alone. It was built on intellect, on patience, and on innovation. The Basilica cannon had shattered the myth of invincible walls, and the fleet's journey over land had turned geography itself into a weapon. These were not acts of chance. They were the fruit of planning, engineering, and an imagination far ahead of its time.
These astronomical tables from Maragech utilize methodologies unseen in the West.
Fascinating. In return, examine this copy of the syntaxis.
Under Ottoman rule, the city would be reborn. Renamed Istanbul, it became the capital of an empire that bridged continents, languages, and faiths. Scholars, merchants, and architects flocked to it, and within a generation the skyline was transformed by domes and minarets rising where ruins had stood. For Europe, the fall of Constantinople sent tremors through every court. Trade routes shifted. The search for a new path to the east began. In a sense, the voyages that would soon discover new worlds were the distant echoes of Mehmed's cannons. The world had entered a new age. Legacy of an impossible plan. Looking back across 6 centuries, the siege of 1453 stands as more than the fall of a city. It is the moment when medieval warfare met the dawn of modern strategy. It showed how vision, technology, and determination could overturn even the weight of 1,000 years of history. Mehmed's secret weapon, the simple idea of moving ships over land, embodied that transformation. It was a triumph of problem solving as much as of power. Where others saw a barrier, he saw a path. Where others hesitated, he acted. The grease on the planks, the ropes in the hands of men, the creak of hulls sliding across the earth. These sounds were the prelude to the birth of a new empire. Constantinople's walls still stand in part today, silent witnesses to that night of fire and motion. They remind us that ingenuity often hides behind what seems impossible, and that history turns not only on courage, but on imagination. As the sun rose over the Bosporus on May 30th, 1453, smoke drifted from the shattered towers, and the banners of the crescent waved above the city. A dream that had begun in the mind of a young sultan had reshaped the world. The age of Byzantium was over. The age of the Ottomans had begun, and the world would never be the same again. The walls of Constantinople have fallen, but stories like these still stand, built from courage, vision, and destiny. If you were moved by this tale of Mehmed's impossible conquest and want to witness more untold moments that shaped our world, make sure to subscribe and join us on our journey through history's greatest turning points. Until next time, this is Empires of Faith, where history lives again.